QST, QST, QST. This is W6TRW. Welcome to our club meeting. Welcome to Farfield. Thank you for being here in person tonight to eat the pizza, drink the beer, and listen to Josh Nass. So please give him a welcome.
Thank you.
So there's nothing I can say that will properly welcome Josh, but you should know he's gotten innumerable hams into ham radio. He has 362,000 followers on the YouTubes, and he's an all-around good guy to go do radio with. He doesn't talk the talk, he walks the walk, and also talks the talk. He does both.
Thank you, thank you.
So Josh, thanks for being here.
Appreciate that.
Take it away, buddy.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. Here you go. Thank you. All right, let me get this. So when Mark reached out to me to do a talk, he was like, "Oh, we can talk about your channel and all that stuff." So I did front load this with that stuff, but how boring would that be if I stand up here and talk about myself for an hour? So we've got a couple of fun little demonstration things we're going to do later, so hang on for that. Okay, so I am Josh, Ki6NAZ. I am a native Californian. I was born in Whittier, California in 1928, that's really good. 1982. And I was there for the Whittier Narrows earthquake in 1987. So that actually kind of started my interest in emergency preparedness and ended up helping me out, I guess, give me some drive when I got into Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts later. And that kind of love of technology and the outdoors led me to kind of where I am today. The image there is actually at last year's Boo Fest outside of Brea, California. For my two sons, which are in Cub Scouts. And it happened to be the same weekend as Jamboree on the Air, which was fantastic. So I was able to, with my little Go Box there and my Delta Loop antenna, make a ton of contacts all over the place to other scouts. And I had, because it was a huge campsite, and all the kids are dressed up in costumes. And so I'm literally like, okay, I'm passing the microphone to Frankenstein here, and talk about their experience in scouting. And it was literally to other scouts, which is one of the kind of best parts about Jamboree on the Air. It was a lot of fun. And Mark, you almost got the number totally right, but YouTube though, oddly enough, 1 year after, or about a year and a half after I started as an engineer, I created a YouTube account. And at the time, it was not the Ham Radio Crash Course. So it was a completely different channel. And it was kind of at the behest of my wife, tragically always abused by the amount of hobbies that I have in the home, saying, "Josh, you have way too much stuff everywhere. We need to move some of your energy into not spending so much money and maybe take some of the things you've bought and maybe make a video on it and explain to people how these hobbies all work." And so that was my YouTube channel. I ended up doing a lot of like fishing videos and shooting videos, and I really went deep into prospecting. So if you didn't know, the San Gabriel River, if you take it far, the east fork of the San Gabriel River is still active with placer gold. So you can take a sluice box up there and about 8 Homer buckets, and you can classify down material, and you can pull gold out of there today without any problem. And you can also fly fish up there, and you can do a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's a great local spot you can go to. Not so great for the radio with the elevations and the valleys and whatnot, but if you wanted to hike to the top, you could do that. But as of today, after all those years, I did spend, I will take a step back. I did spend over 600 days posting a video a day. And that's what they call vlogging. It's not as popular as it used to be, but in 2015 it was quite popular. So I did that for 600 days straight, including the birth of my youngest child. There was a lot of blurry sensor effects on that particular video that got posted. But so I've been on YouTube a long time, and I've seen the YouTube 1.0 and 2.0 and whatever they're calling it now for the different changes that it's gone through. Then a little thing called the pandemic happened. In 2020, I think I was sitting at maybe close to 50,000 subscribers. And then we all got shuttered into our homes, and I got to meet a lot of people who were looking for a new hobby. And they found me, Ham Radio Crash Course. At the time, I had rebranded into the name that you now know. And since then, 362,000 subscribers. That's 1,878 public videos. It's probably another 400 to 500 now privated videos, which is insane when I think about it. And just from the last 365 days, as of me sitting in the parking lot right across the street, 1,550,899 hours watched of my videos, which is a daunting number for me to consider. But since I switched over and made it about amateur radio in about 2018, 2019, it's been primarily focused in getting people educated about what amateur radio is and then to get them licensed, right? That's been my focus. And part of that I have found is that there really isn't a particular way. There's so many different interests that people have, and this hobby is so big that there's no particular way that you can just do, oh, I just do this and you're gonna like it. Just do it the way I do it and you're gonna be good. Kind of much like your guys' club does now, with all the different avenues that you're dipping your toes into and the events and all that fun stuff. You find that people are looking for just a Venn diagram of technology, maybe some communication, some science, and the overlaps, things that they didn't even know they were into. They start flocking towards, like, oh, this is really cool and interesting. So for me, my channel has basically worked on a couple of really particular points, and what I think works is that you like what you're doing. Your club should work this way too. You gotta like what you're doing, right? It should be, exactly. It should be the whole point of your club is to enjoy what you're doing. And then as you do more of it, I can say this looking backwards across 2006, so a number of years, improve upon your process, right? Things get better, technology improves, improve across your process. And then incorporate your best practices, right? So with video making, amateur radio, a number of things have made our lives easier with amateur radio. You were literally showing me your new device, making life easier on amateur radio, right? With the off-screen man that you don't know is here right now. But stuff like that, right? Amateur radio is almost like true engineering in the sense that we see problems, even that aren't even like really problems, but we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just make this a little bit more efficient, or we can leverage new technologies to make things a little bit more fun and interesting. And that's kind of what I think, for me anyway, the hobby of YouTube kind of lines up with amateur radio, because there's so many similar things that you can do as far as improving the process. Now, nobody wants to hear that second part of this bullet. Schedule. You got to schedule when you do things so you can maintain a work-life balance, such as work and hobbies and all that stuff. You got to schedule. That last one though, the budget. Hams don't like the word budget, right? I get a lot of comments on how do I get started? How much should I spend? What should I prepare to spend? And incidentals that I'm not thinking about. What radio should I buy? Did you think about the battery and the power supply and the very expensive coax these days? And antennas, of course, right? All of that stuff. Budget. And then probably the biggest one. YouTube is a world of people that think they're anonymous, which they probably are. In most cases, they are. But people treat that as almost like they're like venting. Just anything that they have a slight disagreement with, they'll just dump it on you and give you the rawest form of criticism. I'm sure some of you have probably seen this on Facebook. Maybe even when you're just posting on your own page and your uncle comes in and says, you know, hits you with the harsh criticism. That's kind of what YouTube is you make a lot of really good friends and you meet a lot of really interesting people, but along with that comes a bunch of random people that just come at you really hard. So learn to take it doesn't mean that you just say, hey, thanks so much, 73. It's, my personal philosophy is even when somebody comes in and they're like a complete jerk to you, the reality is that there's probably some glimmer of an actual piece of feedback in there somewhere. You just have to be willing to go in there and be objective enough to kind of pull it out. It's hard to do. It takes time to learn it, but it does help. And then last but not least, don't stop posting videos. That's the biggest trick. If anyone was curious about making a YouTube video, the trick is you just keep posting. You make a schedule and you just keep making them. And what'll happen is you can't book read yourself into making better videos. It only comes through doing. It only comes from taking the camera out, setting it up, shooting something, whether that's doing a soda activation, as you well know, along with whatever else you're doing, a project that's on a bench. And say you're building a kit, and you're like, I really want to share this kit building with somebody and make it known on how to do it effectively. The only way you're going to be able to be good at doing that is if you do it over and over again. I don't think you can go to college to get better at like YouTube videos. It's just something that you pick up over time, right? So that's kind of about me. So I will, oh, no, okay, sorry. I just updated this slide, so I do want to give a shout out. So here's my road to radio. My first experience with radio was actually a Radio Shack shortwave radio. My first, ooh. How's my lighting? Okay, you're good. My first experience was a shortwave radio from Radio Shack. Unfortunately, not single sideband. We got that later. But I learned about how to listen to a radio, something that's an intangible skill that it takes time to develop, right? Literally, I would find pieces of wire in my dad's garage, and I would start twisting it together to get the wire longer out of my house. Something that you did if you're poor or young and didn't have any other way to put up an antenna, right? You just make a longer wire. I didn't come to amateur radio from CB. Not that there's anything wrong in that, but that was my intro, was more the listening side. So my second experience, when I was in Boy Scout, then called Boy Scouts, was with a Scoutmaster. He had an HT. We were at the Circle X Bighorn Scout Summer Camp in Arrowhead. And I think, sadly, part of that is burnt down since then. But he's literally sitting there with a Kenwood, I think it was a THD1 or a TH1. And he's trying to program a repeater. This is my experience. Damn it! I can't get this going. And he's pissed off. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm trying to get a repeater. I'm trying to be able to make a call on this repeater. And I'm like, well, what is that? And I'm now like a Internet 1.0 kid. I've experienced AOL, and now I think we're even past that into like Earthlink. Who remembers Earthlink? Yeah. So about that time. And I'm thinking to myself, like, used groups, IRC chat, you know, all that stuff, even packet radio to a degree, but like BBC, right? Or BBS, sorry, BBS. And he's like, no, I'm trying to make a call on this repeater. So I'm thinking he's got like a computer somewhere that he's wirelessly connecting into. I'm like, well, what do you do with it? He's like, oh, I talk on it. I'm like, for what? And it didn't click at the time. It didn't make any sense. So fast forward to my internship, first year at Boeing as a non-intern. And that gentleman, Richard Crum, he was a lab manager for Fab T, what we called Fabulous T. He was like, hey, he didn't say this, but he meant, hey, you look like a super nerd. Why don't you come over and take a look at this? And he held up a Yaesu VX8, which is a now no longer in production radio, but a very good one, right? You had these attachments, you had the GPS antenna and all that stuff. It was great at the time because it was like a really good first foray into APRS. And he showed me that, and I'm like, okay, because I hearkened back to the Scoutmaster who was trying to talk into a repeater and couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, what do you do with this? He's like, oh, it's packet. We send packets over the air. And I'm, again, an internet kid. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So I didn't know what packet radio was at the time. And so when I got clued into that, I'm like, oh, this is it. So we drove down to Anaheim HRO, because the Boeing was the Anaheim Boeing, which is now gone. And I got to meet Bob, who's sold me my first radio, still works there today, and is the guy I see like every time I go into HRO Anaheim. So that was my road to amateur radio, as it were. And there he is, KH6BB, good guy. All right, so before we transition to the next thing, which is more demonstrations, because I'm going to need Mark's help a little bit. Who has any questions on that? YouTube, whatever. Yeah. Yes, I do. I've only ever done my own editing. Final Cut Pro on a Mac. I've been Mac since 2011. And my live stream, so that's for the standalone videos, like the 20, 30-minute videos. But then if I'm doing a live stream, that is all on Windows using the OBS software. OBS does work on Mac as well. You can do it just fine. Yeah. Yeah. I've done iPad and phone and all that stuff, but the Mac is my preferred platform. Yeah. Yeah.
One more question. So I know different YouTubers have different approaches to doing YouTube. Do you have a sort of like roadmap or set of goals you're going after, or do you take a more like improvisational, constantly pivoting and trying new things approach to your channel?
So I'll go back to the previous slide. I said, enjoy what you're doing. If you can splash in new and interesting fun things, absolutely do that. Particularly if it's kind of like in the zeitgeist. You know, if people are talking about, I mean, I have the Shegu 6200, which came out. Not necessarily a fantastic radio, but it's popular. And so people are looking at it. And if you always get stuck, you can always make another Baofeng video. Those do amazing. Anytime you get stuck, just make a Baofeng video. Just slide that right under the door. It gets more views than anything you'll make. I'm not even kidding. Right, you've seen it. You spend so many hours doing a soda activation and the whole process, and you could just sit in front of a camera and go, well, here's the menu options on the Baofeng UV9X plus 12, and it will just take off. And then you attach an affiliate code on that, and there you go. Yeah, so it depends. But I follow my interest most of the time.
Since your videos are based on getting people into the hobby, do you volunteer examiner stuff?
What's that?
Do you do volunteer examiner stuff?
I do not. However, we have a Ham Radio Crash Course VE team that we've stood up that has a ton of people that support that effort. And we work with hamstudy.org, Ham Radio Tools, right, to do a lot of that. Most of it is, I really am on the hairy edge of available time I have. Between being a full-time engineering manager and my kids and then do the YouTube, the scheduling is really vitally important to maintaining my sanity and still being an okay husband. So yeah. Oh, you're giving me a beer? Oh, so my volume just went up like 3 dB. That's no problem.
Hey, so how does if you're doing videos and you're talking about the Baofeng videos, how much better are the one-shot videos? Are they doing better?
So
10% more?
you hit on a, so you asked like Quancheng videos versus Baofeng videos. The Quancheng videos are really popular right now. The problem I have, and this is one of those philosophical questions you have to ask yourself, would you make videos on radios that you know emanate spurious emissions and fail the FCC standards? So for me, I do not. I try not to. I will sometimes review a radio that has features that we haven't really seen before. And so example, Wushun had a quad band radio. It was 6 meters, 2 meters, 1.25 meters, and 70 centimeters. And like one of the bands had a borderline fail on spurious emissions. And I was like, all right, let's go ahead and make the video. But the Quanchengs, everyone I've had fails spurious emissions. And so it's hard for me to tell everybody, get them all pumped up, like, this thing's amazing. We're gonna load single sideband on here. We're gonna do 10 meters on this. And then, oh, by the way, it fails every FCC standard on spurious emissions.
How much does it fail DVC?
What's that?
How much does it fail DVC?
Well, I mean, to me, it's binary. It's either fail or not fail. I don't remember off the top of my head, but enough.
Is it by a few dB?
I don't remember, probably 3 to 10 dB
Okay.
on the negative side, or on where it shouldn't be.
Yeah. But if you're comparing like 5 watts to something that's 20 watts or 40 watts, you know, you're,
So
you actually,
right.
yeah, you're failing on an ABC, but in terms of relative to a 40 watt radio, it might actually be less.
That is a very interesting question. That's a very interesting point. I was curious of that myself. So I took the worst spurious emissions radio I've ever received before, which was the Talk Pod. Remember the Talk Pod? They were like the neon green, it almost looked like a bar of soap, and they were black. They also came in black or clear. And it was like every even harmonic was just almost a straight line.
Is that now like a TID radio?
No, TID radio is different than that. Yeah. Now they've sent me 2 of those, and they both failed. And they keep bugging me to do a review, and I'm like, guys, the TalkPod, worst radio I've experienced for spurious emissions. I have a Discone at home, and I have a SDR play, dual SDR play. So I set it up on the, so I put it on, the fundamental frequency was on 2 meters, and I had the radio, the SDR on, I think 1.2, or basically an even harmonic on 2 bands. So the second and third harmonic, basically. I was able to get almost a full mile from my home with a handy talkie, simplex, and could hit my home. So when people downplay the like, oh, what's the big problem? It's only 5 watts. For me, it's one, it's a rule, and I don't want to, as somebody that has that many people following me now, I don't really want to be in a situation where I'm telling people to do something that doesn't follow the FCC rules, because I think that's my position. At the same time, I'll say, hey, look, you're all adults. If you want to have your Quancheng or your Talk Pod, that's fine. Just know going in, this is what I found, right? I don't say like you should live like I do. I just, here's the information. You're an adult. Go adult about it, right? But yeah, it was fascinating to me, because lots of people have told me it's like, oh, it's a spurious emissions. Like, what's the big deal? Now, if you have a properly like tuned antenna for like 2 meters, if you had a one of those long rangers or the halfway vertical antenna, then yeah, you're not putting any of that out, because that antenna is so monoband that it's fine. And we use that a lot for soda or whatever. We'll put up a nice antenna. But if you get like one of those crazy multi-band antennas, then you're now in the multi-band harmonics and it's resonating in those spots. So it's like, yeah, it's not great all the time, but you got to consider that. And you don't want to, again, I don't want to tell people to go do something that I wouldn't do. So yeah, any other questions before we flip over to something else? Okay, so I was, again, following things I'm interested in. I was kind of doing a deep dive on Morse code, my Morse code road, but for CW toys, as I call it, like Morse code toys. And in fact, because I had to park a little bit away, I'll just tell you, in my truck right now is one of those big boxes with the paper tape of CW that had the motor that you had to plug in DC, like how they used to trade like troops to learn Morse code. So that's a demonstrator. If you all want to walk back to my truck, you can check it out. But so when I got my General, one of the big things that led me to getting my General was learning about SOTA. And basically at that point I was like, oh, I got to make that happen, because I love hiking, I love taking radios outdoors, and just the adventure of how it's almost like it's counterintuitive. You're like, yes, I do want to go to the dirtiest place and open the back of a KX2 to swap the battery. That's definitely the right time to expose the back circuit of a KS2. So adventure, right? Adventure in like, what kind of dangerous situations can we put the radios in? I should ask, who is, would they say, Morse code proficient? I assume you. Yeah, you. Okay, that's actually much, I was expecting a lot more, and so that will make this much better for all of you. You guys, sorry, you're just gonna have to hang out. Because I'm kind of like the kid with a learner's permit, and you're still driving with the guy who grabs the steering wheel occasionally because you don't know how to drive yet. So I'm talking to you as a complete noob still. But I have played around with a lot of CW toys, and that's what we're gonna talk about. But first, so the thing that I got into amateur radio in the 2000s, but we had gotten past the code requirement in the 90s, right? So a lot of you probably collective, I don't have to do Morse code. The reality is I think that has probably helped Morse code more than the requirement to learn it at a slow speed. Because now we're in a situation where people are adopting it without learning bad habits and are understanding why it's so good or important to know it, right? The efficiency of the transmission. A lot of people say you're roughly, with a 5-watt radio, it's equivalent-ish to like an 80-watt single sideband radio, up to maybe even 100-watt, depending on situations. But that's incredible for efficiency when you're talking about a radio. Grab one. Here, like this guy. 5 watts output, right? About equivalent is putting a big 100-watt radio on a table. So for me, all those things came together, and I was like, oh man, Summit's on the air is where it's at. I don't get to go as much because I'm busy, but that's what really got me interested. And so I was a new ham, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to learn Morse code. And I downloaded that. All these guys are like, oh no. So Morse code is an audible thing. It's something you learn from learning the dits and das, and that like an A, dit da, an R, dit da, dit. You have to hear that and learn that as an A versus I heard a dit da dit. Ah, I start here. Dit, da, dit. Ah, yes, R. So if you go from audio to mental to a visual symbol back to decoding, it's like we're doing a second form translation in our head. It's like learning a second language by going from French to Chinese. Like a weird translation, right? So that's what I started with. I literally printed that thing out and I put it in front of my radio and I'm like, we're doing Morse code, baby. And I got my pen out and I started listening to it. And I'm like, oh man, this is not gonna work. So learning the code, like I found that, dit da image, horrible. I went so far, printed out, did not progress. So relearning. So I'm a big advocate of the Long Island CW Club. Huge fan, huge fan. I'll explain why in a little bit. But before that, another very good group. They're also equally as good from my point of view, just I am a different kind of learner than what they do. I joined a CW Ops cohort. Very well done classes. Once a week, show up on Skype, you better be there. A very effective way to learn the alphabet from my point of view. It took me basically to knowing the alphabet and the numbers and the punctuations. My problem was being a busy individual, having kids, my first child at the time and working on my second, the weekly schedule became too difficult, right? If you can adhere to like a weekly schedule and you're boom, 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 follow the cohort, CW Ops is great. So then I changed up my methods. I'm thinking, what do we do? I live a non-standard life. Let's start playing around with stuff. I got a phone. So I pulled out my phone and I looked at the different options. Now, 2 of these are defunct. They're gone. But one in particular, Morse Machine, was fantastic. Have you ever used that? Fantastic app. Because what it would do is it would show you characters in chunks. And it would give them to you kind of randomly. And if you screwed up on any one of them, it would give you more of that character until you stopped screwing up on it. So it was really good for that. It was really nice. Morse Toad, funny enough, is it's a Morse code video game about a frog, a phone app game. But Ham Morse still exists, and it's on iOS. I don't know if it's on Android. There's some other apps that are available. I call these Morse toys, so we're going to get into the hardware stuff in a second. But Ham Morse is cool because you can do news headlines with it. So once you learn the alphabet and you can kind of understand what's going on there, you can play these news headlines. And what's cool about it is, for me anyway, again, I've got my learner's permit out here. I've found that it's the randomness of some of the words, particularly call signs, that mess me up, right? I can start hearing a word and I'll think that I'm going down the right path. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm not, but I've only got a couple of options. Once I get a couple of letters in, I'm like, okay, it's probably this word. So the news stories are actually pretty good, the headlines, because you can kind of pull out some of the words. You can even start to head copy a little bit. It's when you start going after call signs that it gets a little crazy, because it could be a W, it could be a K, it could be an I, it could be an N, it could be a 6 or a 7. It's all random, right? So that's the other thing. And then learn CW online. Has anybody gone to that? That's interested in Morse code? Learn CW? Have you guys? I'm looking at it. Yeah. So I guess the other thing that's kind of about my channel is I'm kind of a lone wolf kind of guy. I'll just go and do something on my own. And so for those that don't want to take a class, do not want to be doing that game, learn CW online is a pretty good way to take a crack at it. Particularly learning the alphabet, right? So that's an option. Okay, so Long Island CW Club. Another thing that came out of the pandemic, a fantastic group of people that are just all about Morse code, and it's an actual club. It's true they have 150 classes a week, as per my pulling that number last night. But it's still a club that meets for like having talks, kind of like this, and aren't about Morse code. They had my buddy Mike, K8MRD, ham radio tube. Doesn't know a lick of Morse code. A little bit, I take that back. I think he has made a contact with Adam potentially. I think he did. Anyway, but it's a proper club. It's just an online club. And they've done, I think, one of the best jobs in creating a club environment in the internet space. A lot of Zoom meetings, but still has every form of communication available to them. So they use, what is it, clubs.io or something.io, groups.io. They have a Discord, they have a website, all kinds of Google calendars, all that stuff. But it all comes back to this concept of it's comfortable. Learning CW and particularly getting on the air is a very uncomfortable situation, I've found. And Howard, one of the key persons that created the club, he actually will do a class where he guides you through your first contact. So while you all get on the same frequency, so you're listening to someone calling CQ, and he will help you decode, depending on how strong you are. And so my first actual approved, I actually exchanged information, Morse code contact is on their website. You can go to the main site and you'll see my contact. It was my first one. Fantastic guy, love Howard. But yeah, 150 classes, and you can attend as many as you want, regardless of your skill level, at any time. So it takes the whole kind of CW ops thing and turns it upside down a little bit, which is great. Not there's anything wrong with CW ops, but very good. But I like to geek out on random tech too, and so there was phones, the internet, all that stuff. Let's talk about gadgets. Now, these vary greatly in effectivity. Learning CW via multitudes of radio with training modes and gadgets has come a long way, that's true. Who had the, do you remember the MFJ? Like a pack of cards that had the screen on it. Did you have one of those? Nope. Did you have one? Yeah, I don't know that you want one. I didn't bring one. I couldn't, it's gone. It's in the shack, consumed by devices at this point. Pour one out for MFJ. But and this is where I was gonna show the box. Just pretend that there's a box here with a paper tape in it that does Morse code. Well beyond the tape readers, records, and tapes, I have a Gordon West CD, which is awesome for learning Morse code, and leveraging some internet-connected modes of operation. So a number of these are fun little things you can do on the internet. So I'm gonna pause here. We have a number of things. This actually probably does work best if you get up and take a look at some of this stuff. But Mark's going to help me out a little bit. We have a couple of things I'm going to go through first. Actually, let's wait on the KH one. Hold on, we'll turn that off for a second. Okay, so the first two items I'll mention is, so you're lone wolfing it again. You're like, I want to learn the alphabet. I want to do some QSOs and stuff like that. But you don't really want to do the class, or maybe you don't have the time and all that stuff. So there's a couple of devices. The Morse 32, which is this guy here. This is a little kit you can build. I think they might come pre-assembled at this point. It has touch paddles. Oddly enough, it also has LoRa, which long-range transfer between devices. So you can actually communicate between devices. So they kind of radio together, but they radio on 915 megahertz, that space. And the MCT73, another kind of code trainer device, I'll call it. So what a lot of these things will do, and what some of the internet training methods or in-person training will do, is it will teach something called the Koch method, K-O-C-H, or the Farnsworth, and a combination of the both method. And what the Koch method is that they will give you 2 characters to start, and then you will attain knowledge or ability to copy those characters, and then they'll add another character in. And they both do that, but they add other features like the ability to have a conversation back and forth, or a speak and spell almost. That's kind of what it's doing, is it'll give you the characters in Morse code, it'll play them out for you, and then you will give it back, right? So Koch method, it'll add to your character ability, so starting you out, and then once you know the characters, they'll move you into actually exchanging information. So both of them are pretty good, but we'll demo the MCT73. If anybody listens to my podcast that I do with Leia, this is the device we use to do that. That's the thing that I make her suffer with learning Morse code on. So let's plug it in. I hope we can hear it over the noise here. You can hear it? Okay, so this is going to be level 8, the power of the letter L, one of my favorite Morse code letters. Actually, we'll get closer to you. So it's going to play characters, and you see if you can copy it. It's just like a standard soda activation. So you probably didn't hear a lot of that, and that's okay. But what it'll do is it'll play them in the blind, and then it'll show you the characters after. And you can set it for a certain words per minute, and the idea is that maybe you sit down with a tablet of paper and write down the characters as it's giving them to you. And you just add more characters to it until you get them all. They've already started the...
We got 20 minutes.
Oh, you're good. Do they actually kick us out of here at that time? Oh, okay. It's just going to get too loud.
Just get much louder.
Oh, I see. Now, I'm going to we're going to challenge Mark with this because I'm not strong enough to do it.
All right, come up.
Yeah, right?
Come on up. All right. We're doing a copy competition.
No, this is the speak and spell.
Skills go way down.
Come on in, buddy. Come on. Where's your beverage?
No, that's not it. We'll get one of these in a second. There we go. Echo back. Here we go. What? No, that's not right.
Thanks for the warm-up.
It's the most important part.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what I'm doing wrong. Okay, here we go. Let's crank this up. We're going full power. Here, both of you guys come over here. Come over here.
All right. Come over.
Okay.
That's cool. All right.
So this is echo back. So you actually get to go. You'll both go once.
Oh.
All right.
All right. So this is where it's going to give them.
Straight key, oh boy.
Yes.
I'm so
Oh, you can swap. You wanna? You have an iambic?
I'll try.
If you have an iambic, get it.
No.
I mean, does anybody not carry an iambic?
Well, I don't know. Would you like to use? Would you like to use a Pompico?
Ooh. But this is handmade in California.
Oh, that is a nice one too. Okay.
That can't even pop.
No, this is kryptonite.
This you have to know go.
Oh, okay.
I got
Well, plug it. We can plug it in.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Let's try it.
I don't know if it'll work straight off, but we'll see. Okay, ready? Let's see if it works. Okay, hold on, hold on.
Wait, were we supposed to copy that?
Yeah,
Oh, got it.
it's echo back. So
Wow.
It's going terribly.
okay, we can restart it. They didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't know.
I thought it was just the first character.
No, it's echo back.
No,
No.
that was the question.
I thought we were doing one character. Oh God.
Okay.
So you have to. You want to?
Oh, I'm
Do you
totally
need-
not gonna get this.
Do you want to do something else, or do you need to write something down, or
Oh,
no?
I need paper.
Okay, okay.
I'm terrible at this.
I'll try to head copy.
Oh, see, I think you get extra points if you head copy.
I don't think I can actually take notes that fast, but that's fine. All right.
We can lower the words per
No,
minute.
this is great.
Okay, I think it's at 20 right now.
All right, cool.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Do it.
Yeah, I guess you can both. Oh, no, we'll have to do it again for you.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Because
I'm gonna
otherwise.
practice.
Okay. Okay, here we go. I did totally put them on the spot. They didn't know I was doing this.
I don't even know some of those characters.
I thought they were going to be words. They're random characters.
Yeah.
Oh, it's words?
There's
That's
also-
random?
No. It's
There's
random
also
characters.
there's punctuation.
It was like O. Yeah. So it was like 0Q. I think it was a C in there.
0Q8X. I think there was like a
There was a
comma. or
comma.
something.
Da 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 da. Yeah. It's.
This is hard.
This is not screwing. This is not playing around, I
To be
guess.
honest, to anybody online, I didn't learn punctuation.
Okay, okay.
Slash.
Da 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 da.
Then I think we have to go to the other device. So, good to know, good to know. All right, so then I need this.
I love the Morse arena, by the way. That thing is awesome.
So, upcoming video on my channel, the cat is going to build one of those.
I love it.
The cat? Your cat?
This cat is personally going to build.
My
one.
cat knows how.
Yeah. Okay, I know what you mean.
My channel's entire principle is cat control. Huh? I didn't even know jokes could strike out.
I think this will work better. One of these is definitely the key.
Oh, I think it's this one.
Yes, you're right.
It's like a new one.
Okay, so here's English words then.
All right. English words.
We can change this up to 20.
Man, 20 is hard.
Oh,
Ours
that's
way
not.
better than I am at this.
I'm very rusty.
All right, so this one is copy an immediate response.
Okay.
This one, you don't need the paper.
Okay.
Let's go back. Let's go back.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. How about call signs?
Call signs.
Call signs? Okay.
Yeah.
Start. There you go.
Can you start on the top?
What's going on?
It flashes a light. You might have had
No.
that before. Oh. Or not.
I'm literally like zhuzhing the cable here.
That requires your.
This example might not have worked out perfectly. What's that?
Noisy right here.
Yeah, it's probably hard for you to hear a lot of that. Didn't know how this would all work out. I didn't know how loud it would be down here. So we're just trying some things, but we'll go to the next thing.
All right, we're gonna go to the next thing.
It's not working.
Okay.
You're so clever.
We gave it a shot. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, and yeah, Mark, you can do it. RA, you can do it too. He's standing, so I'll just give it to him. Okay, so this one actually you might want to walk through and see this, but a couple of things to talk about decoding. Before we show this, I got into the rabbit hole of, well, wouldn't it be easier if I just decoded the Morse code with some technology? I'll do great then. It'll be perfect. So this is to show that yes, it kind of works, but that still up here is the best way to learn and copy Morse code, right? That should be the way you learn it. So we got a couple of different options here. The first one is the Shegu 6200 in CW copy mode. And then next to it is the Elecraft KX2 with the sidecar Morse code reader and, well, decoder and logger device. So is that on low power? Do you know? Yep. Let's do it again. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, you jacked up the... Okay, hold on. Okay, so if you want to slide through here, he's going to demonstrate as to the best of his ability. All right.
I'm cheating.
Oh, okay, you're going to fact check it. Okay, go for it.
All right.
Way too fast for me.
That's actually very close.
That was close.
That's actually really good.
Yeah, I got about one word in there.
You want to go ahead and come in and check it out?
Let's slow it down. Let's do 14?
Oh, sure, whatever you're comfortable with, yeah.
14 words a minute. The decoders usually work worse, slower.
Go ahead. Does anybody want to try it? No? Okay, so that's fine. Moving on from the show and tell. All right, so my recommendations, if you don't want to go full gadgety and do all this other stuff, by the way, I truly do recommend you learn by copying the tones, right? If that means changing the side tone, if you have hearing difficulties, changing to something you can hear, learn by tones. Go direct. It's like, again, learning a second language, kind of, not necessarily, but you want to convert that dit-da-dit into RL, get it cemented in your brain so there's no thinking about that crazy image that I showed earlier. You just want direct conversion, right? Direct information. Morse Ninja podcasts and videos with sample code on YouTube. Yeah, there you go. Really, really good. I like to walk my dog at night, and I'll have one AirPod in my ear, and I'm listening to call signs. Call signs are what I listen to. The reason for me listening to call signs is because I feel that's like the most random thing. If I get parts of a word, I start second guessing it, or I'm right, and then that gives me like, I'm so good at this. It's great. I got half of the word, and then it was that word. So good. But call signs, they're random. You don't really know, right? And as long as you're not just playing the same YouTube video over and over again, you generally will learn something. Hunt, Soda, and Poda. It's not going to necessarily make you good at conversational CW, but it's going to remove a lot of that butterflies and the ill feelings of wanting to get on the air. Hunting soda and pot is fantastic because those guys generally want that contact really bad, and so they're willing to work with you even if you're like really bad, like I am. So, or maybe it's just because I usually chase K6 ARK, and he's the most nicest guy ever. But yeah. Again, focus on the call signs and just get on the air. At the very least, take a few times a week to copy CW over the air, right? If you can. If you got a radio at home and you set up a little tablet, those frequencies, there's going to be somebody out there, particularly 20 meters. If you get home from work, turn on 20 meters, listen around a little bit. There will be somebody out there, and you can copy that at the very least, right? Maybe taking a full QSO, trying to work through that could be difficult, right? So if that's the case, you might want to consider Long Island CW Club or CW Ops, but for me, Long Island CW Club. I think that's it. That's all I got. So we went the full time. So I guess we're just hang out, or if there's any questions.
Now we drink beer.
Okay, any questions on any of that?
Hey,
Okay.
hey Josh, thank you.
Thank you. Or I guess play with radios. If you want to come play with radios, go ahead. Go nuts.
Hey, Josh. When you were learning Morse code, did you use any kind of like decoder and just listen? Let the decoder decode it, watch when it's decoding.
The problem is if you watch it, then now you're adding a visual indicator to the tonal quality.
Hearing it and seeing it, hearing it and seeing it, hearing it and seeing it.
It doesn't work the way you think it does. You start, the best is audibly, of course. It just goes right in there, goes right in the brain, and is A, audibly. You hear it, and then it just is A, or it just is R. But if you look at it, now you have a visual, a Q, a Z, a P, that you are now trying to compare to the audio signal.
Yeah, it doesn't get you.
It's worse. No, because it makes your brain start doing all these flippity flops, trying to get in line with what they're hearing, and you're fact checking yourself. Versus, so when you have you ever learned a second language? But a child learns a first language by just hearing it. We don't ever put a book in front of them and go, you must learn English to also hear English, right? We don't do that. Because it gets in the way, the mental process of just what the characters are.
So what was the easiest way for you to start hearing code? How did you learn how to hear code?
It was, well, CW Ops helped me learn the alphabet. And I spent a lot of time driving to and from work where I would listen to CW, listen to people make contacts. And now not all of them, a lot of them were too fast for me. But then I also joined the Long Island CW Club, and I worked through their process. And their process is something that you can do on your own to practice. And I did that for a while too.